I never thought this would happen. I cannot sleep tonight because of how helpless I feel in this situation. I am an au pair. I started at 19, went to Australia and took care of 2 little girls, and loved it. After a year I came back home and went to college. But I decided that I wanted to travel again because I am interested in teaching English abroad one day. I met a really great family on an accredited website that I went to last time for my au pair match, and met a German family. They really liked me and I really liked them in the area, and I've always wanted to go to Germany, so after about 3 months of talking and making sure there was no other family I wanted to go with more, we went through with it. Now I am in Germany, and I have been here for 2 months. They have 3 children, all boys, a 1-year-old, who's the cutest thing on earth, a 14-year-old, who's friendly and sweet, and an 17-year-old, who I don't really provide much care for. He kept to himself a lot and didn't talk much with me, which I didn't mind because I'm mainly there for the 2 younger ones. But some weird things started happening. I began to notice that he started staring at me a lot whenever we were alone, or even at family dinner. He walks up to me at times and it sounds like he's asking me questions in German, but I can't understand him. The oldest boys can speak English. When I tell him I don't understand him, he just walks away. I asked his brother once what he asked, and he said it was something bad and he's told his brother to stop, but he won't listen. Then, over these past 2 weeks, he's made accidental contact with me. Sometimes he will brush up against me even when there's enough room for us to not bump into each other. 1 or 2 times, when this happened, I felt something on my waist, like his hand, but I thought maybe it was an accident. Now that they're out of school, we're alone at the house during the day while the parents work, and sometimes when I'm playing with the baby he will come and play with the baby too, but he will be very close to me, like to the point where I have no personal space. I have had to tell him a few times to give me space, and his younger brother has even said the same thing. Still, for some reason, I thought maybe he was just shy before and was starting to get comfortable with me. I didn't want to jump to conclusions or label him as anything, so most of this I've let go. I really like hanging out with the baby and playing board games and stuff with the 14-year-old. He's a funny, nice kid. But the bad thing that really happened was yesterday. The family went for a walk, and I stayed behind because I had bad cramps. The oldest boy also said he didn't feel like walking, so he stayed behind. We were there alone, and after they had left, I tried to go to my room, but he blocked me. I kept asking him to move, but he kept blocking me. The look on his face, like he thought it was funny, scared me. He would not speak English with me when I kept asking him why he was doing this, and at this point I felt scared and went to walk the other way. I was going to hide in a bathroom until the others came back. But then he grabbed my arm and forced my body against his. I don't know if it was a forced hug or what, but I tried to pull away, but he reacted by tightening his grip, so I just froze. He let me go after a few seconds and just left the room. When the family came back, I went into my room for the night, because I felt like I would just start crying in front of them. I don't know what I should do. I feel ashamed that I couldn't fight him off, and that I'm literally being harassed by a boy so much younger than me. I'm scared to tell the host parents, because I can tell they love their son a lot, and at the end of the day I'm just a random girl that they've only known for 2 months. I'm torn because I love the younger 2 so much already, and wanted to have a good time in Germany. But this boy is acting so weird. I don't know why he went from basically ignoring me to doing this. I know that despite all of this I should probably try to talk to the host parents, probably my host mom, as I'm more comfortable sharing this with her. But I just don't know to bring that up. How to basically tell her that her son did something really weird to me. I never thought I would have to do this, or be in a situation like this, and I need some help. Please update 1. In short, I am an au pair in Germany, and was being harassed by my host parent's son, 17 meters. He basically assaulted me. It is still hard for me to come to full terms with that word, but I now know at least that it was, in fact, what it was. Yesterday was my day off, and after reading through everyone's advice and everything, I contacted my agency that morning. I made sure to first get out of the house, so no one would overhear me, and to get away from the older boy. The younger boy, the 14-year-old, asked me if he could go with me. I was going to the library, and I didn't mind taking him, even though technically he could go by himself. I see older children walking around alone a lot in Germany. But he specifically kept asking to go with me, and like I said before, he's a really good kid to be around, so I didn't mind. I was planning to go to a closed-off area and make my phone calls while he went around looking for books, but while we were walking to the library I could tell he wanted to say something. After a while I asked if there was anything wrong, and after a bit of a pause, he asked me nervously if I was okay, and if anything happened yesterday. He said he was wondering why he didn't see me at all anymore after they came back home. I didn't say anything at first, because I didn't want to tell him inappropriate information. I told him I just had bad cramps, which was true, and want Ed to sleep. But he's a smart kid, and I think then he knew, because he asked if it was because of his older brother. When I didn't say anything, I was so caught off guard by his questions. He asked if I was leaving. He honestly looked so sad. He said he was sorry, and that he hoped I don't have a bad impression of Germany now. I almost cried, because of how depressed he sounded. I told him not to worry about it, and that it had nothing to do with Germany or him or the baby, and that I'd be okay. So I finally contacted my agency when we arrived at the library. I was so nervous that I was shaking when I made the call, but they were amazing, and took everything I was saying seriously. I just told them that oldest child was making me feel unsafe, and in vague terms what happened, without going into too much detail. They understood, thankfully, what I meant, and told me that they would work on replacing me, if that's what I wanted. They also said they would reach out to the family to let them know of what was happening and of my concern with their son. I then called my mom. Being a mother, after I told her everything that had happened, she yelled at me a little, not in an abusive way, but for not telling her sooner, and told me very sternly that I was not going back to that house tonight. Even being an adult, I don't argue with my mom when she uses that type of tone. She sounded so frantic, and sent me money to stay at a hotel for a while until they found me a new placement, even though she really just wanted me to come home. I felt a lot better after talking to her. After a while, the younger boy came back over and told me, very plainly, "I'm going to tell Mom." He would not listen to me when I told him not to, or not to put himself in that situation. "I can handle it." He seemed very angry. He tried to reassure me that his parents would listen, and that they know that older brother causes trouble sometimes. They had another girl, a few years ago, that left Becca, use of him, and everyone thought maybe since he'd grown up and changed it would be different. I stayed at the library while he went home, and just waited. I did not know what was going to happen. I already had a hotel booked by then and knew I would probably need to go back to get my stuff. About an hour and a half later, I left the library. Since the parents were at home today, I felt somewhat safe going back to get my stuff. Before I got back, I received a call. It was from my host mom. When I answered, she was very frantic. She asked me if I was okay, and where I was. When I got to the house, the parents were in somewhat of an argument. I didn't understand all of it, because they went between German and English, but I heard some words, like "not again," and "ruining." In short, the mother pulled me aside. She said that she wasn't aware that the oldest son was still like this. She begged me not to leave. She told me she wanted her two youngest sons to have healthy attachments to their caregivers, and that it was very hard for them to do this with the oldest. She was actually crying during all of this, and told me she doesn't know why he acts like that, but she did not raise him like that. And that while she loved her son, she was not going to tolerate that behavior anymore. She said that once he turns 18 next week, I had no idea his birthday was next week, he will have to go live with his uncle and cousin in the Netherlands, for the sake of everyone in the house. She told me they, the parents, discussed it a bit when the first incident happened, but since he seemed to act better, they dropped it at the time. When I asked where he was, she said that he left quickly when his brother came home, saying he was going to a friend's house. He probably will not be back, and she said that even if he does, she will not let him in, and will tell him to go to his aunt's, who lives not that far, until he can go to the Netherlands. She actually looked very sincere and earnest when she said this, and even though the father looked like he was in shock, he agreed with what she said. I didn't know how to respond to them. It was not the reaction I was expecting, but I wanted to be honest. I told her that I was going to stay at a hotel for a while, and that she will probably hear from the agency. I told her that I love the two younger boys, but I might not be back. She said she understood, but would appreciate it if I at least thought about for a day or two. Before I left, I hugged the baby and 14 years/oh bye. So that is what happened. I am safe in the hotel now. I didn't at all expect that reaction from them. I felt almost sick with worry when I wrote my first post. Of not being believed. But even though the oldest boy probably won't be back and will eventually be forced to leave, I still feel the effects of what happened lingering. I still feel vulnerable and overwhelmed when I even think about what happened. I feel so bad for the younger children. I'm not sure if I should go back or not. She told me to think about it. I will give it some time and see what my agency says first about other placements. I just wanted to thank everyone for helping me through something really difficult. But I am safe now in this hotel, and am not going to rush back into any situation without thinking over my options, and asking for my mom's opinion. Thank you once again. _commenter_ as a German, this post infuriates me. 1. Therapy is free here. It sounds like the parents did absolutely nothing when this happened for the first time, they just hoped and thought their son got better. 2. The fact that they just want to get rid of their son by pushing him onto someone else instead of wanting him to feel actual consequences, like going to the police with OP, is also infuriating. German police isn't perfect, but my own experiences with them have been genuinely good and I want to encourage OP to go to the police. 3. The parents are trying to subject OP to SDA in a house where she was assaulted. That alone is so utterly tone deaf that it's hard to believe. 4. Sorry, Netherlands. _op_ yeah, I've officially made up my mind that I am not going back there. It hurts, because I do love the younger children so much, I hope they will be okay. The kids I watch become a part of me in a way, I still keep in contact with the family from Australia, and the younger ones both really seemed comfortable around me. The mom even said they usually aren't as open at first with new people like they were with me. I might still keep the host mom's contact info just to see if I can check up on them every now and then, purely for that purpose. And now that I'm really reflecting on it, it was a little strange that she still wanted me to stay after what happened. I thought maybe, for my mental health, she'd encourage me to leave. But I think she is desperate for an au pair, since they work a lot. That's amazing about therapy being free. I will suggest to the host mom about maybe seeing if the 14-year/0 would need someone to talk to. I made sure to tell him that I was not abandoning him, but he seemed to understand. He's very level-headed for his age. I know he'll continue to grow into an even more amazing young adult as he gets older. He told me he wouldn't forget me, and he'd tell baby brother about me a lot, so he'll always remember too. That's also good to hear about the police. I always worry about being a foreign girl and not being taken seriously in another country. I am going to reach out to the Vicer ring like another poster suggested and see if they can help me in that aspect. I feel bad for the people that might encounter him in the Netherlands, but I heard they don't play around there. So I hope he gets sense into him soon. But there are vulnerable girls and women everywhere, so it does leave me with a sad feeling. To give an update, I spoke with the agency sometime earlier today and asked them if there have been other au pairs with this family. They said this is their first time placing someone with the family, and if another au pair was with the family before, it was probably through another agency, but they had no knowledge of this, and when they interviewed the family was told this was a new experience for them. I am thinking maybe the other girl was through another agency. There are a few of them. I'm not sure that all au pair agencies can see the others' networks, but they said they will look further into it. They told me that for now, they will not be placing any new girls with this family, so that gave me some peace of mind. Now story 2. Opened up to my wife about my childhood trauma and now she called me a narcissist when we got into an argument. I'm about to divorce her. I 27 male and my wife 26F have been married for 2 years and have been together for 6. As context, I was repeatedly raped by my brother's babysitter when I was around 9. She would grope me, force me to remove my pants and then either stick my dick in her mouth or try and give me a handjob whenever my 4-year-old brother slept. Most of the time I was paralyzed and couldn't do anything to stop it. She would always buy me sweets or video games for my DS as a reward. So in a weird way I started growing attached to her and would try and seek the abuse if it meant getting her rewards. I knew whatever she was doing was wrong, but she would always threaten to take my life if I ever told my parents, so I never did while the abuse was actively happening. Everything stopped as soon as she graduated college and moved states. I only realized how fucked up the things she did to me were when I was around 14-15 and understood the concept of consent. When I tried to open up to my parents, strict Catholics, it never ended well. First they blamed it on porn and claimed it corrupted my mind into imagining these things happening to me. If I claimed I was telling the truth, my dad would beat the shit out of me and my mom would ground me. I tried opening up to my friends but their reactions weren't any better. My male friends just called me lucky and asked if the BJ was good. My female friends claimed I was just lying to get attention and laughed in my face. I learned to just try and forget the past and vowed to myself that I would never mention this to anyone again. Now on to last week. Me and my wife had heard some good things about this show called Baby Reindeer on Netflix from our friends. Going into it I knew it revolved around sexual abuse and stalking. In my mind I thought I was over the past and I could handle watching the show no problem. Big fucking mistake. At the end of episode 4 I was literally on the verge of tears and I felt all the supposedly forgotten memories come flooding back. At the end of the next episode I couldn't hold it in anymore. My wife paused the show and just stared at me. After a while I did finally manage to calm down a bit. She asked me why I was crying and I just let everything out. She said she was sorry, hugged me and we went to bed soon after. I apologized to her the following morning for ruining our night. From the moment I let her know about the abuse I felt something change in our relationship. No more kisses when I came back from work and no more initiating anything intimate from her side. She wasn't mean or anything but I felt like something was bothering her. I tried to apologize for maybe making her uncomfortable but she would just claim there was nothing bothering her and I was just being paranoid. Yesterday me and my wife got into a pretty heated argument about her lying about taking out the trash, but during the argument she said something that floored me beyond belief. She literally said, "At least I'm not lying about being raped, you fucking narcissist." I literally couldn't process whatever just came out of her mouth. She tried apologizing right after saying that, but I just packed a few clothes and left to stay at my friend's house. She tried calling me several times since but I haven't bothered picking up and have blocked her for time being. I know I might have trauma dumped on her and I know women aren't into that, but I just want some sort of acknowledgement/support. I don't have anyone left to turn to with this and that's why I'm posting here. I've had 2 therapists to date and both didn't seem to help much. Gut is telling me to divorce her but she's genuinely the love of my life. Throwing away 6 years because of this one moment doesn't sit right with me, but I'd wibza for divorcing her? Am I actually the asshole here? Update 1. Shortly after posting, I did decide to go back home. I had work the next day and didn't want to burden my friend with my marital issues any longer. Upon coming home I was met with her screaming at me for just leaving the apartment and ghosting her without having an adult conversation with her. I just let her know how hurt I was by the things she said to me and that I needed some time to myself to gather my thoughts. She tried arguing back with how there is nothing to think about and that I was being an immature crybaby. From that point onwards we have barely been on speaking terms. I know a lot of people are going to be mad hearing this, but the longer I thought about my marriage and my wife, the more I wanted to give her another chance. She wasn't perfect by any means but neither was I. A lot of my past relationships ended as a result of my past catching up with me, but I really want to change it this time. She isn't the first partner/friend to have this type of reaction to what I went through. I know it's tough, but I feel like I just needed to bite the bullet if it meant keeping my sanity. I didn't want to start over again. After we somewhat started talking to each other again, I sat her down for a serious conversation and let her know again how hurt I was by everything she said. I let her know about all the ridicule I suffered as a result of me opening up and her having the same reaction, just reopen unhealed wounds. She just kept quiet until I mentioned couples therapy. She then started crying, but not for the reason I thought. I tried holding her, but she just pushed me away and screamed that I seriously thought about ending our marriage over some silly argument we had and that I was just trying to make up some sob story after watching Baby Reindeer for attention and sympathy. According to her, all of this was just too convenient to be believable. If it was real, why didn't I mention any of this throughout the 6 years we have been together? At this point even I started tearing up. I apologized for keeping this from her for so long and then tried reassuring her that I in fact wasn't making this up, but she just slapped me and stormed off to bed. That was a week ago and I have been sleeping on the couch ever since. Whenever I try to speak to my wife, she just makes snarky comment towards me and just storms off. I just cry myself to sleep most nights and just wish I never fucking watched that show. None of this shit would have happened. I currently don't have the money for therapy and just feel lost. I don't want a divorce. I want to try and make this work, but this whole mess is just so draining. I'm not in contact with my family, so I don't have anyone I can turn to with this. How would you guys move forward in this situation? A response for up in the comments: thank you, but please understand that I've spent 6 years with her, 7 in August. She's the first one that was willing to accept some of the flaws I have. Edit: I've realized that I'm just beating a dead horse by using this as justification to stay with her. I'm contacting a divorce lawyer.